Will I be able to get the services I need when I am, not always at the college at the time that offices are open? Even if there's not the line, it's that, how do I get my question answered? And sometimes that can be a challenge for students, and especially for adult students who may need that question answered late at night. So I've been really intentional about trying to engage my staff in how to make things better for our students, rather than having all the ideas myself. At the end of what seemed like a very long degree program for him, according to him, right? Like, he's like, this has taken forever. It didn't, but it seemed like it did because he was doing it, as a part-time student. And I watched him walk across the stage, and his kids were there. He had littles, and they were cheering my daddy. They had posters, and I saw the pride in his heart. And he later said, like, actually, I did need this. It was also for me.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast with Miss Meaghan. Meaghan, I want to start off. You grew up as a single mother household where money was tight, but college was non-negotiable. What did your mom see that made her hold that line, and how did that really shape who you became?
Yeah, it's a great question. As you mentioned, my mother was a single mother. She didn't go to college herself, and she regretted that, right? And so as I was growing up, it was always something that was talked about from the time I was very young, all the way through high school. And it was just something that was known to me to be a thing, right? Like, this will happen. And I know, really believed in the value of education and saw the benefits of it. And it can be hard when you're younger to really understand what that means and what that looks like. But it has absolutely shaped who I've become, because I did go on to get a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree after that. I got a doctor of education after that. So somewhere along the way, I realized, you know what, she was right. Hard to say about your parents sometimes, right? But she was right. And education is really meaningful. It changes your life. It can change the lives of the next generation, changes the way society runs and operates. And so it really has shaped who I've become and how I've gotten to where I am in my career as well.
Talking about right there, where you come to your career. Where are you today? What's the who do you represent, and what's your title?
I'm the Vice President of Enrollment Management, Marketing, and Student Retention at the University of Southern Maine. And I'm very proud to hold that title, and I'm very proud of this institution. It's a public institution in Southern Maine. We have 2 campuses in the beautiful vacation land of Maine. But I wasn't always here. I started as an admissions counselor a very long time ago, working with adult students who were coming back to change their lives with education. And I watched those folks transform themselves. And similar, I see the same thing here, right? And I go to commencement every year to make sure I watch those students walk across the stage and feel that sense of pride. And it really is what keeps me going all year.
I love it. And what did your mom think about it all? Like, to just see you at this level and education and pouring back into others, just like how she was pouring into you.
Yeah, it's a great question. My mother actually passed away before I completed my doctorate, but she knew that I had a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, and she was so proud. She took my grandmother to my undergraduate commencement, and it was one of those larger schools, right, where you graduate in a stadium, and so there was a lot of walking and a lot of people, and she was just so proud to see me be able to do that when she knew how important it was.
I love that. And I love that you continue that legacy of just pouring into, others, because some people just experience the same thing. I was actually at a high school recently. I think I told you that I was the president of the foundation of the high school. So we were just doing like a community event, and a parent comes to me and she's like, hey, like, my daughter's graduating, but we're struggling, I just appreciate what you guys have done for her. And right now I'm living at a hotel. I just taken some kids. But it's like, you just don't know what people are really going through, right? But here this girl is, she's graduating. You don't know what her story is, but she's living at a hotel. And everyone is going through something. And I can imagine, Meaghan, you meet them at where they're at. So I just kind of appreciate what you do there. We've also, when you talked a little earlier, you've also described that the first job after college is the moment you felt real independence for the first time. What shifted you in that moment?
Yeah, it's very different to make your own money, even though and it feels like so much, right? Because you have never made your own money before. And so all of a sudden it feels like a lot of money, and it's not. It's your first job out of college, and you think you know all the things and you don't. And you're making all the money and you're not. But it's in that moment that you can afford your own apartment, afford your own car payment, and those things give you a sense of independence that you don't otherwise have when you need to rely on other people for those things. And I think it was in that moment that I realized why my mother was right, right? Education doesn't just change your thinking, although it does. It also changes your life circumstances and your ability to make your own decisions and to be sure that you're in good relationships and do what you need to do for yourself without having to worry about other people.
Do you feel like, I mean, this was probably some time, but what was your challenges going into college? Like, I think when we look at our youth now, there's always an excuse of why,
Yeah.
right? Or there's a stigma, maybe there's this narrative that people. What are some of the challenges that you've came across, but realized that they were just a roadblock that you were able to overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. As a first generation college student, I think I went into college knowing that I wanted to be an archaeologist and then getting there and realizing that's not a thing that is going to be realistic, right? And realizing that pretty early on, and then not having any idea what I did want to do, um, or how to get there. So I switched majors a couple of times, and each time I was like, no, this is definitely the thing. And then ultimately I was like, I don't know if this is the thing. And so I think part of being a first generation college student is that you don't always have that guidance or that um, yeah, I guess guidance for like, listen, this is going to turn into this career, or this is a liberal arts education, and this is the benefits of a liberal arts education, what that's going to give to you, and to be able to sort of make that decision and find your path. So eventually, I found my way to political science, and which, as you know, I don't work in the political field, but as a liberal arts student, I had those experiences of critical thinking
Yeah.
and of learning how to think and how to research and how to understand data. And from that really actually led me onto this path. So I'm grateful for my criminal justice faculty and my political science faculty and all those liberal arts folks that gave me this background.
I feel like all you guys that are kind of in this space of admissions and enrollment, you guys got here almost by accident. Like it was just
Yes.
you were doing something, you fell in love with whatever the mission was at the school, and you're like, how do I get involved?
Yep.
And you mentioned that you had the ability to do private and public.
Yep.
What are the differences?
Oh, big differences. And both are meaningful, and both change lives. So I'll start, I guess, there with the similarities. The differences, though, is that public education is meant to be accessible. And it's meant to, as you mentioned earlier, to meet people where they are. And that's such an important part of education and understanding that the working adult may not be able to do as a traditional student, right? And attend class 5 days a week and live in a residence hall, right? Like folks need to work. They need to be able to have an online presence. They need to be able to come to class in the evening. They need to be able to do other activities during the week besides just their education. And so, not again that all privates can't make that happen, but we see this more often in a public setting. We see it to be more affordable, to have a greater return on investment, and to be very student focused. And those things have been meaningful to me in my career too. I've attended both public and private, and I've worked in both public and private. But the mission of the publics really speaks to me, and it's where I feel like I fit to be able to make the greatest difference for students.
I love that. And what you're doing is amazing because you also talked to me and told me that you guys are actually growing enrollment right now, which is kind of against the national trend. What's driving that? And is it intentional? Is it something that you guys are doing unique?
Well, it is very intentional. I'll say that. It's also, a lot of hard work. I have a really amazing staff here who bring in more new and transfer students every year than they did the past year. And you're right, that is not always common. And I think that's a lot of dedication to really taking care of people, right? And of understanding who does the work and listening to those folks when they say, we could be doing this better in the following ways. So I've been really intentional about trying to engage my staff in how to make things better for our students rather than having all the ideas myself, right? But other than that, we're a very data-driven institution. We're a very collaborative institution. So we take, suggestions, ideas, complaints even, and compliments from across the institution. We really internalize that to make sure that we're doing the right things for our students and for our prospective students. So it's really been a group effort here, led by our president, who is very collaborative, very intentional, very focused, very intelligent, and an excellent leader. So she's really helped us all to have those same qualities and to pass them on to our staff, and it really has made a difference.
I love that. And when you talk about the student, who is the UMaine student that most people probably don't picture when they think of a flagship university like yourselves, and why should they?
Yeah, well, our students are everyone. So that's a little bit part of the challenge and part of the beauty, right? So we have a
Hmm.
lot of traditional first year students who come to us right out of high school. They live in the residence halls. They stay here for 4 to 6 years, and they have a very traditional experience. But we do also have a lot of those working adult students who come to us to take one class a semester, who take some online classes. Actually, even our traditional students mix the in-person and online now as well. We also have an interesting group of students who look traditional. They present as traditional, but they're actually non-traditional. So they may come right out of high school, they may live here or not, but also they have a full-time job. They're taking care of families at home. And so they sound like they feel like a traditional student, but you know that in the background, they're doing all of those other things. And so how do you meet those folks where they are and provide them the services that they need to be successful? So we also have graduate students, we have transfer students, we have early college students, which are students that are still in high school taking classes with us. So it is, there's really no USM student, right? Where they're all
Yeah,
ours.
yeah, yeah. A little bit of everything, a little bit of
Yep,
everything. It's a melting pot, it seems like.
absolutely.
Which is cool. And in that melting pot, I can imagine that you have a lot of those that, or maybe not yet, but those that are want to do trades, content creation, or just entrepreneurs who you just mentioned doing other things, which are kind of really those legitimate paths, and students kind of know it. How does UMaine make that case for a degree without dismissing those alternatives?
Yeah, I think we do that really intentionally, right? So there are a lot of paths that students can take, and we're here if that student's path works for what USM offers. And so we do have a lot of wonderful articulation agreements with our community colleges, helping students who complete or who are yet to complete an associate's degree transfer those credits over to USM. We also have credits for prior learning here, where students can receive academic credit for work that they've done, for certifications they've received outside of a traditional academic environment. So, understanding and recognizing those things I think have been important for our students and for our prospective student base. But we also have a lot of careers and we have a career and internship hub, where we often put students into paid and non-paid internships to help them better understand what careers they may like. And sometimes that works really well, right? They find something that they love. And sometimes they come back and they say, I didn't love it. And you know what? That also is a really important learning experience in your college career. So I think helping to make students feel welcome here and find their path here has been a really important part of what we do.
Do you feel ever like some of these students, or even those that leave, go become parents, get a job, come back, that they want to come back, but they feel like there's something blocking them? Do you feel like you come across that a lot? And what is it? Is it a communication? Is it a resource thing? Like, where are those individuals that want to come back but feel a little too hard at the moment?
Yeah, and a lot of them do, right? And this is actually where I started my career, is with the working adult, and I've continued working with that population of students throughout, and it's a variety of things, right? Sometimes it's value or return on investment. Sometimes it's literally the money to pay tuition, and sometimes it's wondering if they're going to fit in, right? When you're a traditional college student and you sit in a class with an older student, that was less common when I was in college, I would say. And now, I'll use your word melting pot, because that is really how it is here at USM. We have adult students next to our traditional age students regularly in our classrooms. And so, but people don't always know, right? Like, am I going to fit in? Is it going to feel okay for me? Can I work it into my schedule? Can I pay for it? Will I be able to get the services I need when I am, not always at the college at the time that offices are open? So we have a lot of those barriers that we help students work through as well.
You mentioned now you're kind of you talked about virtual, and then you mentioned how a lot more kids are doing virtual. Is that because just the age you're in that people want to do more virtual at home stuff? Like, are we seeing a decline of people showing up in on campus? That's actually a very good question.
It's a great question. And it varies, right? So because we have all the people and all the kinds of students, we do still have traditional students who live in our residence halls and they don't take online courses. But about 60% of our undergraduate students will take at least one online course in a semester. And the reason is because everyone is busy, right? Even our students
Yeah.
who are traditional still may have a part-time job. They may work on campus. They may be off at the internship from our career and employment hub. And so they need that flexibility. Some of these students also, depending on their age, were students in a high school or earlier during the pandemic. And so they became used to this method of learning, right? And so during the pandemic, when we all switched online really quickly, there was a lot of concern about, is this going to work? And I don't know if we can say if it did or if it didn't, but it did make students more comfortable in that environment. And so we do see students asking for online classes more than we have in the past.
I'll tell you what, I probably most of my classes were online when I did go to college. And this was early, like 2008, 2009.
Yep. Yep.
And it was that I was working 50 hours a week, so it just made it easier. But also did, I don't know, they're both great,
Yep.
really, to be quite frank. I
Yep.
feel like maybe certain classes you shouldn't take online just because they become a little bit more challenging.
Mhm.
And I have my own opinions on teachers and all of that, but it is cool. It is just cool to see that we are moving in a direction. I think when we pandemic has allowed everyone to do so much virtual,
Yep.
and seeing how easy and accessible it really is. I mean, we have phones now. We have
Yep.
everyone has a computer for the most part. Internet's kind of all over the place. That's actually pretty cool. When it comes to I think one of the biggest issues that I was struggling with as I was getting into class is always going into the financial aid office or going into, I don't even know what they were called, but where you had to wait in line
Yeah.
for information. It's that gotten better because I think sometimes like those things are also roadblocks, right? People already they're anxious, they want to get answers, but now they have to wait an hour and a half in line. Like how are we kind of bringing that to a small pod and saying, hey, communications is 24/7 or is it 24/7?
Yeah, it needs to be 24/7 and it isn't always 24/7, right? So, our offices have real humans that do the thing and we try not to make them work 24/7 if we can help it. And as a result, right, we do have offices that are open during certain hours. That's a real challenge for some of our students. I will say that the advent of, email and really robust websites like we have and an internal portal for our students like we have has really helped disseminate information in a different way. So we here at USM do not see hour-long waits to register because that's what I remember, right? Like waiting in line with your bubble sheet to register. Now I'm aging myself. And we don't have that anymore because we register them online. But the point is still the same, right? Even if there's not the line, it's that how do I get my question answered? And sometimes that can be a challenge for students, and especially for adult students who may need that question answered late at night.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Yeah, no, for sure. Because as you mentioned, meeting someone where they're at. If I'm working a long job, I would love to get an answer at 11 o'clock, but then I have to wait till the next day, right?
Right.
And who knows? I'm sleeping, trying to get all. So, yes, I love that we're just working on how do we meet people at what they're at,
Yeah.
especially with a melting pot, as you mentioned, at UMaine. You mentioned how you oversee both the front door and the full journey.
Yeah.
When those two priorities pull against each other, how do you even decide where to focus?
Yeah, it's a good question. Our president is really firm on her vision of student success and being student focused every day. And so that really is the guiding factor for us. As an access institution, we admit students that are qualified to come here. So we're not waitlisting students, even though we know they could be successful here. We're admitting them if they're qualified. But it's then our responsibility to make sure that they have the resources and the skills that they need to be successful here. And so that is that whole, enrollment journey and the retention aspect of my work. And that really is a big picture. It's not done by me. It's not done by any individual. working with our faculty, working with our deans and our provost, our learning commons, our tutors, our career hub, making sure that we're getting our arms around students in every possible way so that we can give them what they need to be successful here. And that does vary, right? We do also have a adult student success center that's wonderfully engaging for our adult students. It depends on the need of the student, but there's always someone looking out for students as individuals, not as a number, and getting our arms around them and what they need. And so that's really the important part of my work. I've got a great admissions team. They can do admissions all day long. It's how do we then make sure that they're taken care of once they're here. And so connecting all those dots has been a really amazing success story, I think, here.
Was there a moment that, I mean, probably tons of them as long as you've been doing this, but is there a moment when you've seen a student walk across the stage, someone you know who almost didn't make it? Like, how did that feel? You know, I can imagine these are where your cup is really being filled when you see those moments, but do you recall that one story?
I do. Yes, I absolutely do. It was a little bit earlier in my career when I worked more directly with students than I often get to now, unfortunately. But I remember distinctly a working father who was a single father, and he said, "I don't really need this. Like, I don't care. Like, I got a good job. I'm good. I need to do this for my children. I need them to see that this is important." And I said, "Okay, we'll get you there." And it was a struggle, right? Because it's still time away from children. It's still childcare. It's still the expense and the cost of everything that goes into a college education. But at the end of what seemed like a very long degree program for him, according to him, right? Like he's like, this has taken forever. It didn't, but it seemed like it did because he was doing it, you know, as a part-time student. And I watched him walk across the stage, and his kids were there. He had littles, and they were cheering my daddy. They had posters, and I saw the pride in his heart. And he later said, like, actually, I did need this. It was also for me.
Yeah.
And you know that,
Wow.
yeah.
You know,
And
I always say what we do is not for us, right?
yep,
Like, we're adults now, and it's how do we continue to pour into the next generation?
yep,
You've been doing it obviously for so many years, and when you see that, you know, me being a father, I got like 2 classes. I am that guy that should go and finish my two
you
classes.
do, you have
But
to.
yes, I need to do some online classes too. Um, but I do it for that reason because I've been very successful out of it. I mean, I was already running my first restaurant at 19 years old. So, but it was like I want to show my kids that there's options, you know, because if they don't see it, they don't believe it. And that's just how a lot of us are. You know, if you didn't see your family do it, you just don't think it's achievable
That's right.
until you meet that person that says, no, you really can. So Meaghan, just kudos to you for just, this is what your life is. When
Yeah,
we talk about passion and purpose, this is what it looks like, right? Making
absolutely.
sure that other people can see the other side that you've also seen. Um, what does the future of public education look like if we get it right? What does that world feel like? I feel like we're in a space now where pretty sure you hear it, but I'm in Central Florida where we just closed down I think 11 schools,
Mm.
high schools. Like, are you guys? Is it affecting you guys? Is it something that you guys even thinking of?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, in higher education, we've been talking about a demographic cliff for a very long time, right? Like fewer high school students are coming our way. There were simply fewer babies born. It is what it is. And how do you prepare for
Mm,
that? But here in Maine, we're also seeing students graduating from high school and choosing not to come to college at all in some cases. And that number seems to be growing every year. And so, you know, helping folks to see the value and the return on investment of higher
mm,
education is a really important part of what we do. And that's why I also oversee the marketing and strategic communications teams here, because telling that great story of all the amazing things that we do and the lives that we change um, is really necessary and important for the future of higher education. I think, though, if we do it right, to answer your question, I think that we're the ones that are producing the next generation of thinkers, of workers, of teachers. We have a wonderful teaching program here. We have wonderful healthcare programs here, right? And we need all these folks in Southern Maine and across New England and across the nation. And so we are the ones that are preparing those folks. And it's a really important responsibility for society. And so I think if we do it right, we're the workforce generators. We're the thinkers.
You are the second person that I spoke to from higher that told me this
Yeah.
this week, and you don't see in that direction. Like when you really think, even at the coming to college, preparing you to really go out in the work field,
Yeah.
right? Like you can mess up here, you can ask the questions, you can really learn, and you could figure out, hey, as you something that happened to you, maybe this is not my thing. Well, let me go over here or speak to someone that could really guide me on maybe what's my thing. I mean, I don't know that sometimes that story is being told, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. Or maybe I'm just not that young kid that wasn't, now I'm paying attention more,
Yeah.
than back then. Because as you mentioned, we just think we know it all.
Oh, yeah.
But I love how you kind of put that into play for a lot of our leaders, a lot of those people in education. It's like, hey, we are building up the next generation that are going to be taking care of us because we're only getting older.
Yes,
You want to make sure that, yes,
we need them
you
to
put it
do
that
that.
way. Yeah, yeah. We got to make sure they're good.
Yeah.
If you can actually reframe the national conversation about public higher education right now, what's the one thing you would want people to understand that they're probably getting wrong?
Yeah, I think sometimes we see these reports about, the tuition's gone up this much and people are building this cool facility and that cool facility, and do we need these things? And it's not that those things aren't also being built or those tuitions aren't also being charged, but those of us that do this work are in it to help people, right? And to help students, and not to teach people what to think, but how to think, how to learn, how to grow, how to be ready for jobs that we don't know about yet, right? They don't exist. And 20 years from now, they'll exist. And the foundations that they learned in higher education will help them be successful in those jobs, will help our society move forward with those jobs in the first place. And I sometimes think we get hung up in the price tag or the dormitories or the food or the whatever the national conversation can shift to, without really stopping to think about the importance of this to our national society, and to teaching students how to critically think, how to engage with each other, how to have meaningful conversation, how to disagree respectfully, how to research so that you can disagree in a way that makes sense, right? And these are really important skills that sometimes get lost in those conversations.
I also think there's just a lot going on in a college, like or a
Yeah.
university. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you are right. I could probably learn every single thing, and there's probably so many things on a campus, and it's like we just, I mean, I don't know, communicate better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, but you are right. It's like a campus that gives you anything and everything, and that tuition gets you everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But are we really utilizing the tools that are in front of us, or are we just going to class and expecting that to be it?
That's right.
But I mean, look what's happened to you, Megan. I'm pretty sure the reason you got there is because you were knocking on doors, you were trying to figure out what was going on,
Yeah.
you were talking, closed mouths don't get fed,
Yep.
type thing. So a lot of people, if you're asking where do I get help, where do I get all these resources, it's asking, right? And where can they go to get this information, Megan? Is it a website, social, email? Where can people find out more information, especially? I think there's a lot of money being left on the table when we talk about scholarships and grants. Where can people find that information as well? Is that something that they can go to your website?
Yes, our website is quite robust, and our marketing team does a great job on it. So there's a lot of those resources there. But we also have really, really friendly staff. And so I think part of the digital age, right, is that people go to a website, or they look for something and they see it or they don't see it and then they go away. But I would always encourage students to have a conversation with a human as well. Because individual circumstances can lead to really personalized recommendations for where you might find an outside scholarship you didn't know existed, or you might have access to a paid internship you didn't know you had through the Career Hub. So there's those types of things. Same for student accounts, right? You have a bill and you're like, I'm just not sure how I'm going to pay this. Give us a call. We'll help you. Those are some of the things that our staff is really, really good at here, is working with our students. And so there's tons of information on the website, yes, and our staff are really great at helping with personalized recommendations too.
I love that. As we start wrapping up, what does actually, better question, what would you tell a first generation student sitting on the fence right now, wondering if college is ready for them? I think that's a better question because you've kind of experienced that.
Yeah, I would say education is something no one can ever take away from you, right? It's not, the degree is one thing, but the knowledge is something that once you have it, it's yours, right? And there's something freeing about that. There's something an independence that comes with those thoughts and with that ability to reason through a problem and to figure it out and to be able to move forward in a career or a life. And once you have that, it doesn't get taken away from you. And so that's such a meaningful element of my own journey that, especially as a first generation college student, that
Mm,
I would hope to be able to impart that on others, right? That like this is something you're going to do for you, you're going to invest in you, and then it's yours forever.
yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one. And I'll leave you with this hot seat
All
question.
right.
What is one assumption about people you serve that you had to completely unlearn? And what changed in your work once you actually let it go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think earlier in my career, I believed that everyone needed education. And that was my assumption. And
Okay.
over time, I've realized everyone doesn't, as much as I want them to have it. They don't all need
Yeah.
it, right? And that father that I already spoke about was one of my first indications that, people can be successful, of course, without higher education. They can be more successful though with it. And so some of the folks that don't need education still want it. And those are two very different groups of people that we need to serve, right? People who feel that they're here because they need to be here, and they feel desperate to stay here, and we need to get our arms around them to help them be successful. And then there's people that want to be here because they just think that this is for them, and we need to meet those people in a different place. And so understanding that we really do have different motivations from our students, I think has been really meaningful in helping me to both recruit and retain.
Wow. Listen, you're too good, Megan. You answered every single question like too easy. You've been doing
Oh,
this for too long.
so sweet.
What is next for Megan? How long does Megan have doing this? Is she looking for a different title one day? Is she want to become the president? I always like to hold people accountable. So,
Yeah.
what is the next goal for Megan?
I sometimes talk about how long it is until I retire, and it's just so long that I've given up counting. And, I really love my work. I love coming into the office every day, and I just really love what I do. So I'm in this for the long haul. Like I said, I really believe in public higher education. I really love working at USM. I really love working for President Edmondson. So I'm here for the long haul. I guess I would say, next steps, never say never, but being a president is a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle, and
Okay.
I don't know if I'm quite ready for the lifestyle, but never say
You all
never.
right? You just told me about your young one. Do you have the time?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah, I do have a
Well,
young one, and I see presidents at fundraising events long into the evening, and at performances and interacting with our students, and that's so meaningful and it's so necessary. And I also need to interact with my own child at some point in time,
well,
right? So I would say not yet, but never say never.
what are those messages before we wrap up? Sorry, and the last question. What are the messages you're telling your child about school nowadays? And is she listening?
He does listen, yeah.
He.
And sort of interesting anecdote. He knows that I have a staff, and he also knows that my president is a woman. And so at some point in time, he came to believe that all bosses are women. And so, so he'll say things, right? Like, oh, if they're a boss, then so it's a woman, right? Like the woman is the boss. And so it was a really cute juxtaposition from what I was used to growing up, where it was often assumed that a supervisor or a boss or a leader was a man. And so it's been really sweet to see that change. But other than that, he knows college is for him. He thinks he might also play professional hockey, but aside from that, his plan B is to go to college. So I think I'm rubbing off.
Hockey. Well, Megan, we definitely thank you so much for your time here today. And if you guys want to know more and try to find more information about the school, it is maine.edu. Is that correct? I was trying to pull it up here.
Uh,
Maine, yeah,
yes, we're the
I got
University of Southern Maine. Yes.
got it. And social, you guys on socials?
We are on socials, yes. We have wonderful Instagram and Facebook accounts. So just we're at University of Southern Maine. Give us a search.
I love it. Well, guys, to see and hear more conversations like this, make sure that you guys do like, subscribe, and comment. Megan has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Latest.